Hey, so it's Thanksgiving, and if you are watching this, then like me, you may be home alone on Thanksgiving. So I thought, both for my own joy and to share some joy, I might do a live stream with a reading. Today's reading is Pronoia by Rob Bresney, and I just pulled this out of my shelf and started flipping open pages to see what I could find. So here's the first thing I found. I thought this was cute. There it is. If you're home alone on Thanksgiving, you might be feeling like you're a nobody. And here is an illustration that says, everybody's a nobody and nobody's perfect. If we get to know each other, and I hope we might, I'm really in the I'm all about, I was going to say I'm in the business of, but I'm not in the business of it right now. But I'm really into seeing the various faces of love, the various faces of God, the various faces of creation and all things. And what I love about this book, Pronoia, is it's Rob Bresney. The subtitle on the book says, How the Whole World is Conspiring to Shower You with Blessings. How the whole world is conspiring to shower you with blessings. And when I'm feeling alone, it's really easy not to feel like the world is conspiring me with blessings. However, I do a lot of practices to help keep myself present and awake to the places where we are actually swimming in blessings, even when we don't think we are. So, for example, I was taking a shower and I realized that every object in my bathroom was an expression of somebody's love, an expression of somebody's care or desire. So, like little things like the towel I was using, like somebody had real delight to make money selling that towel. And somebody had real delight figuring out all of the mechanisms behind what it would take to create and mass produce and manufacture that towel. And before that, somebody had real delight finding out how to weave cotton into a fabric that we could use as towels. Just like mountains and mountains of love and support that went into that one little thing that was the towel that I was using at that moment. And then I looked at the shower curtain rack, like the bar that the shower curtain slides on, and it was the same thing. And then suddenly I could see it everywhere, like the vinyl that covers the floor and the shape of the bathtub shower fiberglass casing. Like somebody actually spent hours designing that and felt delight at the way they curved the corners so that it would be easier to clean, and the color that went into it so that it would be more appealing to all of the people buying it. Every little thing, all of these different pieces of love and care and support and joy. So I was just suddenly filled with this, like, I was really moved. Like, suddenly every object that we're surrounded by, every object that I can lay eyes on, is another example of someone's care and love and support. And that even though you're sitting there alone right now, maybe watching this video, even this video is an expression of somebody's love and support. And that even though we might not be feeling the hug that we might want to be feeling today, or even though we might not be in the environment or the conditions that we want to be in, we're actually surrounded and immersed and swimming in conditions of love right under our noses, though. I might not even be noticing. Anyway, that was kind of a tangent, but that's kind of one of the subjects that's been on my mind and been on my heart a lot lately. So getting back to Rob Bresney's book, Pronoia, I'm gonna close the book and then we're gonna flip open, and whatever we flip open to, that's what we're gonna play with. Okay, so one page says homeopathic medicine spell. And it's just totally like silliness. This is the homeopathic medicine spell, and it's got all of this little tiny text, which I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing. We'll see. And then on this page over here, it says the science of the invisible. Ah, I love that. I don't know if have you ever heard of? There are two things that this overlaps that makes me delighted to read that title. One thing that makes me delighted to read that title is called The Science of Deliberate Creation, which is Abraham Hicks' work. Have you ever heard of that? If you have, I hope you're smiling right now because we have something in common. If you haven't, it's interesting because, okay, so I'll tell you the story. So, and you can skip a few minutes in the future if you don't want to hear my story about this. But in 2002, I was living in New York City, and I can't even remember how I got there, but somebody invited me to this woman's place that used to be in right next to the Twin Towers. And she was doing this, law of deliberate creation, science of deliberate creation, law of attraction. That's what it is, law of attraction, science of deliberate creation workshop at her little tiny apartment in Manhattan. So I went, and she was talking about Abraham Hicks' work, and then she would play this 15-minute audio, and then we would talk about it for 15 minutes. And if you haven't heard any Abraham Hicks, I highly recommend it. But anyway, part of what they were talking about was the concept that thoughts are things. And I had heard that concept before from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And it was at a time when of course, I was living in New York City, so I was spending a lot of time in corporate America and corporate culture, and I was very ambitious and wanting to make a ton of money, and all of the trappings that come with ambition. And so the title Think and Grow Rich, I was all about the money, so that sounds like a really good idea. But what Napoleon Hill says in that book is that actually it's the universe is a much more plastic and creative place than we are taught in schools. That what we think is real and physical and limited actually is able to be shifted by how we focus our attention. And so there we were sitting in this like law of deliberate creation, which is again a kind of thoughts are things. Where are you putting your attention? Where is your focus? The kind of underlying belief that physics all boils down to vibration. And that made sense to me because atoms are we perceive the chair that we're sitting on as solid, but we know at the atomic level, at the level of physics, that it's not solid, right? That it's all just spinning atoms and molecules and particles and vibration. And no matter how much closer they look at things, they can't find anything solid, only things that appear solid at a certain scale. And the smaller we look, the more we just see waves and vibration. And we look at light and we're like, wait a minute, is that a wave or a particle? And science says, yeah, it's both. And we go, what? So there is this, so coming back to the Rob Bresney title, The Science of the Invisible, delights me because it overlaps this science of deliberate creation or the law of attraction, that thoughts are things, that what we focus on we actually can attract. Is that real? And then I started thinking about it from the perspective of psychology. And in psychology, they look at it slightly differently. Oh shoot, I had the phrase for it in my head and now it's just gone right out of my head. That's a confirmation bias. They say that whatever you're putting your attention on, that's what you're going to start seeing everywhere. Confirmation bias. So, I've been reading a lot about mysticism and philosophy and psychology and spirituality and cross-cultural religions, and it seems to be that all roads lead to Rome, that everyone ultimately comes to the same conclusion, which is that reality doesn't exist, or maybe that there's this undulating field of consciousness, and that all things are happening simultaneously, and that what we experience depends in part on what we choose to cultivate as our own frequency, like a radio station. Like if we are cultivating a frequency of all of the cynical, pessimistic, horrible things that are happening in the world, then that's the radio station we'll tune into, and that's what we'll start seeing everywhere. And if we are choosing a different radio station, choosing to tune into a radio station that has optimism and the thought that the universe is really acting in our favor all the time, even when we don't think it is, that maybe there's a larger picture that we're not seeing yet, that if we're choosing to focus our attention on more optimistic, more uplifting, more positive thoughts that make us feel better, then that's what we'll start seeing, because confirmation bias, or because all of reality is simultaneously happening at the same time and we're tuning into that radio station, or because it's a plastic universe and what we think, what we choose to focus on is actually what starts to manifest in reality. I've had some pretty trippy experiences in this department, and I'm sure you might have too. Maybe one day we can exchange stories if we keep getting to know each other. But I definitely am under the impression that reality isn't necessarily what we're taught in school. And hi there. And so anyway, so I was just talking, for those of you that just joined in, hi, you've got a friend here today. And I was talking about this book. I'm doing a passage reading out of the book Pronoia, and the title happens to be The Science of the Invisible. So anyway, yeah, I like that because it overlaps the science of deliberate creation, Abraham Hicks' work, and it overlaps the science of physics and how subatomic things aren't really solid, and that maybe thoughts are things. Maybe the invisible choices we make actually can make a difference in the reality we experience. Anyway, that connects with some of my life passions and the things that make me happy. So, all right, so I said I would do a reading from this page, The Science of the Invisible. This is fantastic. I just read the first line and it's fantastic. Okay, here we go. So the first line says, "Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going?" Biologist E.O. Wilson says that philosophers long ago stopped addressing those questions, believing them to be unanswerable. Scientists stepped forward to fill the vacuum and now act as supreme arbiters of the mysteries that were once the province of philosophers. The writer, Rob Bresney, says, "I'm saddened by the loss. The scientific method is a tremendous tool for understanding the world, but most scientists refuse to use it to study phenomena that can't be repeated under controlled conditions and that can't be explained by current models of reality. I think it's impossible to explore the three big questions without taking into account all that elusive, enigmatic, unrepeatable stuff. The more accidental, the more true." I can at least hope the scientists won't object if the Beauty and Truth Laboratory borrows their disciplined objectivity and incisive reasoning to explore areas they regard as off limits. I love the mischief in his writing. Two groups that may not mind the astronomers and astrophysicists. I see, I misread that. Two groups that may not mind are the astronomers and astrophysicists. More than other scientists, they've been compelled to develop an intimate relationship with invisible realms. In fact, they've come to the conclusion that's eerily similar to the assessment of shamans and mystics from virtually every culture throughout history. Most of reality is hidden from our five senses. See, that really fascinates me. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier, about things I'm passionate about and things that I really enjoy. I really enjoy the mystery, that it is absolutely clear to me, and I like the question, is it possible that most of reality is actually hidden from our five senses? So the next paragraph, he writes, 96% of the universe is stuff we've never seen. Cosmologist Michael Turner told Jeff Brumfield in the March 13th, 2003 edition of the journal Nature. To be exact, the cosmos is 23% dark matter and 73% dark energy, both of which are missing. All the stars and planets and moons and asteroids and comets and nebulas and gas clouds together comprise the invisible 4%. So where is the other 96%? No one knows. It's not only concealed by humans, it's not only concealed from humans, it's imperceptible to the instruments humans have devised, and its whereabouts can't be predicted by any existing theories. What will happen as the implications of this data filters down to the other sciences? Maybe there will be a reversal of a long-term trend documented by Nature. It's in italics, the magazine Nature. In 1914, the magazine found that 30% of the world's top scientists believed in God. In a second survey in 1934, the number dropped to 15%, and by 1998, it was 7%. In fact, if the fact that most of reality is hidden doesn't spur them to reconsider the possibility of a divine presence working behind the scenes, maybe it will move them to become more sympathetic to a project like ours, which has the intention of adapting the scientific approach to the exploration of the invisible. Oh, I totally love that. Anyway, so if you like me doing readings, then you've got a friend. I think I'm going to be doing more of these. Just all kinds of readings and little personal stories and tangents on love and God and consciousness and finding joy and love even when we might not be feeling it. And there are a whole lot of trolls out there. There are a whole lot of people who are using ridicule and sarcasm because they don't have easier access to expressing their yearnings. And I'm hoping that by sharing time together, you'll find some rest, some love, maybe even find inspiration that helps you find your particular phase of love, your particular expression of the desire that I think is the core force, the core creative force in the universe. Have a great afternoon or a great evening or wherever you are. And if today is still Thanksgiving for you and you're seeing this video just now, happy Thanksgiving.